So we start. Part one, why Iran is an important destination from the viewpoint of the investors, not from our viewpoint. You know, Iran is a good location for heavy industries, large scale industries. Why? Because the mass land of the country. Iran is 18th largest countries in the world with more than 1,648,000 kilometers, square kilometers, and large population. So for heavy industries and large scale industries, it's a good location, such as car manufacturing, steel mills, agribusiness projects. Iran is a very considerable local market for all kinds of products. You know, most of the population are under 35 years old, and families are relatively have high income, so they have good purchasing power. So it's a good location for establishing and putting some projects like home appliances, electronic devices, fashion and clothing, entertainment projects, and so on. There are lots of natural resources and minerals in the country, not only oil and gas, but many other minerals, metal and non-metal. So as a result, it is a good place for putting some kind of projects that depend heavily on natural resources, because in these projects we have the comparative advantage, such as projects, extractions and refineries and big petrochemical complexes and so on. You know, having good infrastructure is a positive factor for reducing the cost of the investment projects, and one element to have profitable investments. Fortunately, in Iran, we have developed infrastructure and in different areas such as transportation, telecommunications, energy, etc. Also, Iran has the highest standard of living in the region, based on the World Bank. A strategic location. You know, in the north, we have access to Caspian Sea, and then through the Caspian Sea to CIS countries. In the south, we have access to Persian Gulf, and you know, 20% of all world oil transportations comes from the Persian Gulf. And because of more than 2,000 kilometers of coastlines in Iran, we have comparative advantages in shipyard investments and shipbuilding, port development, maritime transportations, and related projects. Based on the development law of Iran, the government is allowed to accept annually more than about $15 billion of foreign investment, foreign direct investment, $30 billion of credit, foreign credit, and $20 billion of PPP contracts, meaning that a project with the investor, private investor, and an state entity in the country. Iran is one of the next 11 countries. You know, next 11 are those 11 countries that are considered to be the biggest, among the biggest economies in the world, based on Goldman Sachs. And the other countries are Turkey, South Korea, Egypt, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Mexico, Nigeria, Pakistan, Philippines, and Vietnam. So Iran is one of the next 11 countries. It means that the outlook of the country is very bright. As opposed to one of the speakers who has just made a remark, a kind of negative remark about the situation of Iran, you know, these are some examples of investments by European countries and advanced countries in the country. You know, the first one, Germany. We have 71 projects by German companies with total amount of more than $1 billion right now. They are running the projects and they have invested this amount. And by Italy, about $500 million. By France, more than 1 billion. By Belgium, Austria, Spain, UK. So if the situation in Iran is not very favorable, why these countries have come to the country with these big amounts of money and investment? And I will show you some big brands that are working in Iran. You should know these brands: Nestle, Nissan, Peugeot, Danone, Renault, Kia, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Total, MTN, Citroën, Hyundai. These are just a few of the companies that are working in Iran and investing in Iran. In part two, I want to just tell you what happened after JCPOA. I agree with Mr. Khatibzadeh, the other speaker, who said that most of the achievements are not the direct effect of the JCPOA, but the effect of the good management, sound management of the administration of President Rouhani. But, you know, after JCPOA, we need to highlight some of the achievements, some of the developments of the country, just to show that the risk of the investment has come down. You know, sanctions, we were under the sanctions, heavy sanctions for many years. And sanctions just increased our risk of in the economy. Now, I compare some of the developments. Before sanction, we had very limited correspondent banking. And now the correspondent banking is gradually being normal. And no bank transfer channel was available for our banks, and as a result, our debt service was not done because we didn't have any channel to transfer money from our banks to the European banks. So we had lots of debt service delayed. Immediately after correspondent banking was open to Iranian banks, we paid our debt service. Also, we didn't have any credit line from industrial countries. Right now, we are negotiating more than $40 billion amount of credit lines with European countries. And you have heard that last week we signed 8 billion euros credit line with South Korea. So this is a sign that the risk has come down. And we had negative GDP growth rate. Right now we are among the fast-growing economies. Last year we had 2-digit growth rate. And as a result of the sanctions, our credit rating was deteriorated from 4 in OECD category to 7, which is considered the worst scenario. Last year, we improved our credit rating from 7 to 6, and the next improvement would come soon, very soon. Before JCPOA, our aviation industry, our oil industry, our automotive and car manufacturing were under heavy sanctions. Right now, and immediately after JCPOA, we had signed big contracts in oil and gas fields, with Boeing, with Airbus, ATR, and with some big car manufacturers, Europeans. And also, before JCPOA, we didn't have much foreign investors in our capital market. Immediately after JCPOA, the number of the foreign investors in the capital market tripled. So we can see that our economy is very bright and the outlook is very bright. And the negative perception is not very considerable right now. And we can see that many investors, all of the, during the year, are coming to our organization just to ask for information and to decide about the project that they want to make investment. My next chapter is about the incentives that we provide to the investors. The governing law of foreign investor is called Foreign Investment Promotion and Protection Act, and in short we call it FIPA. Based on FIPA, foreign investors enjoy the national treatment. It means that all the facilities, all the support and protection that we provide to local investors, we also provide to the foreign investors. We consider them the same as Iranian investors. All the sectors that Iranians are allowed to invest in, foreigners are allowed to invest. So there is no discrimination against foreign investors. Only for the investment of the governments, not the private sector, we need to get the approval of the parliament. In some countries, some other countries, governments cannot make investment. But in Iran, it is not. It is possible with approval of the parliament. Foreign investment is guaranteed against nationalization and expropriation. And if, based on law and for the public interest, there is such a case, we provide the fair compensation based on international treaties. Foreign investors can bring and import their capital in different forms, not only hard currency. They can bring currency, they can bring machinery, equipment, raw materials, know-how. So we are very flexible in this case. Transfers are very, very easy. Foreign investors can easily bring back their money, their profit, their capital after 3 months notice to the relevant organization. The foreign exchange rate for foreign investors is in case of the unified rate, is the rate of banking system. And in case of existence of a market rate, it's up to the investor. We allow the investors to change their currency in the free market. There is no limitation on the value of investment. We had cases less than $50,000 and cases of more than $3 billion. There is no limitation. Small investments or large investments, all are allowed. Also, there is no limitation on the percentage of the foreign investment. We had cases of less than 5% shareholding to the cases of 100%. All allowed. It's up to you, to the investors who decide about the composition of investment in Iran. Foreign investors can acquire land and real property, real estate, but not directly. They should register a company in Iran. After registration, we consider that company that is registered an Iranian company, and then they can buy real estate, land in the name of that company with 100% ownership of the foreign investors. Dispute settlement is first, we encourage to go to the local courts, but there are arbitration courts. Also, there are some other means of dispute settlement based on BITs, bilateral investment treaties between Iran and the country of the home country of the investors. Employment of expatriates is allowed. If the investor needs to hire some foreign workers, engineers. They can ask the relevant organization, which I explain later, and it is allowed to hire them, and we provide them with work permit, with visa, with resistance, with other necessary documents. There are also lots of tax holidays in the country. The flat tax rate is 25%, but this 25% is not applicable to all investors because they enjoy lots of tax incentives. For example, for establishing any project, they would enjoy 5 years of tax holiday. And if the project is established in industrial parks and economic zones, that 5-year increase would be increased to 7 years. And in less developed areas, that holiday is 10 years. So there are a variety of tax holidays. And in some cases, some projects, it is perpetual, like in agriculture. Investment in free trade zones have better incentives. For example, the investors don't need to get visa because visa issuance is simplified for free trade zones. And also the tax holiday is 20 years. And we have 7 free trade zones in the country. Based on FIPA, the government would cover all the political risks of the investors, not commercial risks. Some of you have heard about MIGA or ISEC. MIGA belonging to the World Bank and ISEC to the Islamic Development Bank. Those entities would cover the political risk, but against big fees. But here, we cover the risk for free. In MIGA, for example, if you make 100 million amount of investment, you should pay 2% of the total investment annually to MIGA, just for covering the investment against political risk. Okay, thank you. But here, we cover you for free. Okay, the last part, who is in charge of investment in the country? Okay, you decided to come to Iran. What organization you should approach? Usually, in countries, an IPA is responsible for attracting foreign investors. IPA stands for Investment Promotion Agency. And in Iran, Iranian IPA is called OITAI. OITAI stands for Organization for Investment, Economic and Technical Assistance of Iran. It is under the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Finance, and it is in charge of receiving and attracting and supporting all the foreign investors and foreign investment in Iran. And we have a president, and our president is also a vice minister of Ministry of Economic Affairs and Finance of Iran. And OITAI is the only necessary entity for all investors who want to come without any trouble. It is not obligatory. When I say necessary, it doesn't mean obligatory. It means that it is a good entity for foreign investors to come. Why you need to come to OITAI? Sometimes investors have a project in their mind. Sometimes they want to come to Iran, but they don't have any specific project. They come to OITAI, and OITAI can offer them lots of investment opportunities, lots of projects with feasibility study. They can choose among them. Sometimes investors are looking for making just engaging in an M&A or buying some kind of privatization programs, projects under the privatization program. So OITAI in this case can provide information, um, can arrange some meetings with the company that is being privatized and providing some financial statements, etc. For entering into a PPP contract with a state company, OITA is a mediatory entity that can facilitate the contract between the private investor and the government entity. PPP stands for public-private partnership. Investment license for foreigners is not necessary, is not obligatory. But if foreigners want to enjoy all the support and protections of the FIPA, they should get the investment license. And OITA is the sole authority in Iran that is able to issue investment license. For establishing greenfield projects, you should know what kind of permits and permissions you should get from different entities, organizations, ministries. Sometimes you have some kind of advisor or consultants, but if you don't have, you can come to OITA, and OITA will provide you with some information about this. If you need to find a local partner, again, OITA can help you, just to provide you with a variety of local partners in your specific field. So, inside OITA, we have established a Center for Foreign Investment Services. This is a kind of one-stop shop or a kind of a single window. Instead of going to different ministries, from this street to that street, from this city to that city, we provided the representatives of all the relevant organizations, ministries, to one place. And you can see here, PAX organization, registration office, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, other entities that you need. In one place, you come to OITA and you can meet all of them all together. This is our website, investiniran.ir. My presentation is almost done. Thank you.